Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 676. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the master of speculation, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the bridge-defying, has returned to Earth only to give encouragement to his legacy replacement, Tiny Whatnot, but he remains the elder statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
How's it going, hey?
And I thought it was moving, Jim. You had the opportunity to interact closely with your legacy replacement, giving him encouragement. I thought it was moving to me. On this episode, we are going to be talking about Dark Crisis Warzone #1 and Superman Kal El Returns #1. We also have some great conversation from Speeding Bullets. Mr. Segulin, we are sponsored as always by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Can you please tell us what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Superman #1, 50% off, only $249, as well as 40% off all the various variant covers they've got going on. But we also have Lazarus Planet Dark Fate one-shot, 40% off, only $299. Lazarus Planet Next Evolution one-shot, 40% off, only $299. And Lazarus Planet Omega one-shot, 40% off, only $359. As well as all the variant covers for those different titles. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, we've got their deals of the week, of course, and there's some great ones from DC this time around. Absolute Swamp Thing by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson hardcover. $100 regularly, 50% off, only $50. Batman, the Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1 hardcover. $99.99 regularly, 50% off, only $49.99. The Rogues hardcover. Regularly $29.99, $14.99 regularly, 50% off. And that's a lot of 99s, but I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you're ever in the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Are you going to ever let Tiny Whatnot do that?
No.
Boy, that was pretty fair. I'm just going to no.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
Jim, looking over at the Facebook group, they have this, it's cool, Jared posted this thing from CBR about the odd link between Batman the Animated Series and a forgotten 80s ad campaign. And you'd have to think, especially with the history of Batman the Animated Series, that there was probably a lot of things that influenced Batman the Animated Series, even if that didn't directly. But I love seeing different connections like that. I was a big fan. How much of Batman the Animated Series did you watch? We talked a lot about Kevin Conroy when he passed. Did you? What was your?
I watched that. Yeah.
How much of it did you watch?
I think I've probably seen the whole thing periodically in pieces. Mm-hmm. You know, because one I know during my college years, because it came on right at the time, right during a time when I had between classes. So I'd go back to the room, grab a quick bite to eat while I was just hanging out, and I'd get to watch an episode, then have to go to a class.
Yeah, that's kind of what my experience was with Batman the Animated Series too, which I know is strange knowing what a diehard Batman fan that I am. I didn't necessarily watch, because a lot of it was a lot harder back then. Like, there wasn't streaming.
Right. Oh, yeah. You had to catch it or you missed it. There was no catch-up or anything like that. And I think I did more watching of it after everything was done and the streaming services and whatnot came around. So I think I've caught it. But it's funny, I watched the episodes and I enjoyed them, but I couldn't sit there and it sounded like a show that I could probably sit down and quote and say, oh yeah, this is that, and then this happened. So I don't want to say I'm not a fan, but because I am. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't a diehard, because I watched it probably when, as I said, in between, I can't remember which year it was that it was perfect timing for me. I'd get home, watch it, and then go to class. And I can't remember what year it was even, or I know it was one of my college years.
So there's certain episodes that I can quote. I mean, whereas, I'm in that place with it. Not every single one. I watched it very similar to how you're talking about. And some of it had to do with VHS, because VHS stunk as a recording medium. I mean, now let me say this. When VHS was at its height, I loved VHS. It was great taping it. But, there was always things that would go wrong. The tape would get chewed up. There would be, certain pieces. Sometimes, if somebody power went out, or if somebody else was watching a movie on it or something like that, and your tape wasn't in there, or they had in like one of the tapes that already had that tab taken out that like you needed in there to be recorded, you wouldn't get your episode. So things like that would happen with me with Batman the Animated Series if I didn't catch all the episodes. I watched all of it, but like you, it was very broken over time. And this is one that benefited. I've owned it on DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray. I own it again on Apple through iTunes. I bought it through that just because I liked which is nuts now, because I bought it on iTunes when the DC app was already a thing. When they had the animated series on the DC app, then they have it on HBO. So I pay for the ability to be able to stream it on a streaming service, but yet I had to own it digitally as well. And I love it. I've been watching it recently. Yeah, it's I'm getting into, like, I'm watching Smallville again because I got into it because of Talkville. And for some reason, I'm watching Batman the Animated Series because I'm watching Smallville. Multiple episodes at a time. It's really good. To your point, there's episodes that I vividly remember. There's other episodes, I don't know that I've seen this. And I'm really enjoying that because it feels fresh. It was really cutting edge because it holds up incredibly well. I was always a big fan of it, but I'm like questioning now, did I actually really see all of it or not? I'm having that with Smallville, though, too, where I know I saw every episode of Smallville. There's like episodes where I'm like, I don't remember this episode, but yet I know I saw all this show when it was coming out. I did not miss any episodes of Smallville. So I think that's what's happening with me and Batman the Animated Series. It's just been enough time that there's certain episodes that I saw once and I don't remember. And it's fun watching it again that way. It holds up really well.
Yeah, I know I did not see every episode because I know there's been times when I was watching one, I don't remember seeing that. Wow, this is kind of neat. I'd sit down and I'd watch it. Or, same thing with Smallville. I know there's parts of the later seasons that I missed a bunch of episodes that I either, for whatever reason, missed it, or I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember them being on at all. So it's, yeah, I think it's kind of the neat thing of going back and watching some of this stuff that, there's episodes that you're like, wow, I don't remember that. And I had a run with Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, where I was watching that through the one app, and I was just like, I've never seen this episode. This is awesome. Like some of the later stuff, like the last season stuff, I did not see a bunch of those episodes. And
that was great. The later that season was a great season.
Yeah,
but that was just it. When in the 70s, VHS wasn't a thing. So if you missed it, they mentioned this on the Smallville podcast recently, where they were talking about, what a 22 episode show was like back then when you couldn't count on everybody catching every episode. So your writing had to be reflective of that. Yeah, there was forward movement for characters, but you also had to be reflective that there was going to be characters that was their first episode, or maybe they hadn't watched it in 2 or 3 episodes, because of life. The show had to be written with that kind of thought process in mind, which is very different than how things are written now. So this has been the big news coming out over the past couple weeks in particular, is James Gunn and not just James Gunn, but the whole DC movement. What does DC's movie future look like? So Henry Cavill is not going to be Superman. James Gunn's writing a new Superman movie, but he's being eyed to play a different character. It's going to be a younger Superman.
Oh.
Yeah, it's interesting on this one. I'm torn because I wanted to see him come back as Superman. So I want to start off with that. You and I are very much in the same place with that. When I heard about a younger Superman in a direction with that, I'm like, okay, here's going to be the problem that they're having right now. We're getting a lot of news, again, back to we're not heading in this direction. We're not doing that. I think they need to stop releasing news until they've got like a direction going. And I also think like maybe don't cancel everything, like maybe let things go and like hit a point where it's like canceling a comic book series but then having no comic books coming out, right? Certain projects, like maybe like Wonder Woman 3 is a great example, right? And I'm sure there's probably a news article about that. There's not going to be a Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman 3 as it was intended. Why not? And what I mean is they can't possibly have this direction fleshed out enough right now that we're going to get a movie anytime soon. You've got that one ready to go, right? I mean, as far as begin production and start moving forward. Why not wrap that trilogy up? Give us a nice ending, because that was successful, yes. Right? Close that chapter out, make that the end of this thing, and move on to the next one. I get the idea of not, because of the fact they're heading in a new direction with Superman, I get the idea more of saying we're not going to move Henry Cavill forward as Superman because they're trying to head in their new direction. Okay, respect. That I get that idea. I'm not. I wanted to see another Henry Cavill Superman movie, big time. But okay, you want a younger Superman. You're trying to, really boot this new universe idea. I'm in. I'm into that idea. As long as you've got a good script, as long as you put a good actor forward and really, head into a direction with it, you can sell me on this. This is not the way they're handling news right now. They've really got to get somebody on PR, like getting in front of all this, because it seems like every piece of news that's coming out, like we got this great announcement that we've got people helming a direction. They're canceling everything. Great. How about some announcements? And they can't possibly have announcements ready yet because they're just putting this together. And I totally respect their problem. It's really interesting because they're trying to do, and rightfully so, what Marvel did back in the day, and that was get a real roadmap put in place, and then let's start fleshing this out. I applaud them. I want to see them be successful. I'm just kind of I'm torn. I'm very torn right now because we threw out in front of us Henry Cavill's back. Yay! Yes, no, he's not.
Well, here's one of the things I want to see that Henry Cavill movie and all that.
Yep.
James Gunn, is a talented writer, and I've enjoyed everything he's done. So. Mm-hmm. I do have that, okay, let's see what he does. Part of me is thinking in my head is we had this young Batman. We're going to get a young Superman, and we'll get those two, and they'll rebuild the universe on those two characters. And with having Patty out of Wonder Woman, again, when that first announcement came out, I was like, no, she's doing a great job. And I'm worried that we're going to lose Gal Gadot because she was in because of Patty. My guess is we're going to get a new Wonder Woman. We're going to get a young Wonder Woman, and they'll let the Trinity, and they'll just rebuild the universe with newer, younger, actor and actresses, and go that route. I'm hoping we'll get that. Now, if everything is just up in the air and no plans, then I'll be angry. But you and me, we're easy marks. They put out a new movie, we will go see it. It's that simple. And if you get the right people writing it, we'll sit there and we'll judge it based on what we're seeing, not what we wanted. But that's us. There's a lot of people out there that are going to judge the next movie based on the fact that it doesn't have Henry Cavill, that it's not Patty, movie where it's not Gal Gadot.
Here's the thing.
Judge it on that, and that can potentially hurt future movies.
Here's where I'm going to
whole rebuilding process to have it fail on.
Here's where I'll partially disagree with you, though. One of the pieces we have to remember is, being the diehard fans that we are, we both loved the Henry Cavill Superman movies. Not everybody did. It was very divisive. I mean, we've got to be pretty clear on that. I mean, it was not one of those. It was a film series that was divisive. We wanted to see him back because the hope was, in a new movie, they would produce a movie that would be more welcoming to all fans, if that makes sense. Like, they would get it right. And I wanted to see Henry Cavill have that, because one of the things you and I both adamantly agree about, and I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off. It was more of I wanted to build on some of what you were saying. I think part of the problem with Henry Cavill's was people like him. And he looks like Superman. He feels like Superman. The movies, I liked Henry Cavill in both of his Superman movie appearances. Well, Justice League is a whole other beast. I wanted to see a third movie, a third opportunity to like get this character right, because I just feel like there's so much potential for him as Superman. I get the idea of starting with a younger guy. I think because of that, I think you're right. I don't know that we're going to get Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. And I don't know how you do boot a new do this new universe and keep her as Wonder Woman.
Right. You can't.
That's why at this point, kind of like, the Aquaman movie is probably going to be the last hurrah of Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and I kind of get that. I'm glad that we're getting this next Aquaman movie. I would have loved to see them. We're going to give this Wonder Woman movie the last hurrah, and then kick off the new direction. It's interesting timing-wise. Like, how fast can they move forward with their story direction? And I think that's going to be the real piece that drives all of this, right? I just feel like these announcements aren't good, but they can easily be turned around by some terrific trailers, right? Down the road. I don't know, and I don't think that just applies to us.
Oh, no. There's a lot of people out there who are fans of superhero movies, who will... You give a good enough trailer, you give enough pomp and flash and all that, and you'll get people going in to see it. So they've got a shot at again, if they do this right, if they give a good solid movie, they can rebuild the franchise, and they can give something that builds on each other and do something. But as you said before, they're not giving us any indication they're planning that, and all they're saying is no. Don't just take everything away and not give us something in return. What they gave us is that James Gunn is writing a new Superman film. Yeah. Okay, so that's the positive news. But no indication on what they're looking at, who they're looking at, what the story's about, what kind of Superman film are we going to get? So I think I'm hoping we get some, they follow up with some positive news, some information, some details, something to get people going, that sounds interesting.
And here's the thing, what they can't do with that is rush that. So I recognize their conundrum right now. So you've got this news that's coming out, we're canceling this, we're not doing that. It's not going to be him. It's not going to be Wonder Woman. It's not, the problem is there's a lot of knots going on right now.
Yep.
And there's not, and you can't, because what we don't want, and I think what would be very bad for this universe, is to throw out right now, quickly, a roadmap that they aren't going to follow. I get the whole problem of, we kind of got to let this news go and kind of like be held there itself. I just, as a fan right now, I want to see something that they can't possibly give us at the moment. Here's the thing we're finding out, too, and I think it's a good thing. Disney recently has been announcing they're pulling back some of their movies, meaning they're slowing down the release a little bit. They've been this chain of not just Marvel movies, but a lot of their movies have been coming out like super fast. Their TV offerings have been coming out super fast, and some of them have been very successful. Others have not met with the same critical success that they've been used to in their franchise, like the Marvel franchises and things like that. I've enjoyed everything that's been coming out, and I've really I'm not just the DC fan. I am the Marvel fan, and that stuff has been great. I'm also just a blanket Disney fan in general, not just the Star Wars properties. I love Disney, the classic Disney. I'm historical Disney, and some of the current stuff they've been doing. Pixar. I'm a giant Pixar fan, so I've been enjoying the output, but I think they're pulling back and kind of regrouping and trying to figure out how to handle film in the theater, how to handle streaming, how to handle TV, and pull some of that stuff back. I get it. Right now, Warner, DC, with HBO Max and mergers and all that, they kind of got to figure out the same thing, because everybody's been throwing a lot of money towards streaming. Netflix has been doing it. Everybody's been doing it. it's not sustainable, the amount of money that they've been throwing towards it. So now you've got to get a little bit more conservative and start focusing on quality, making sure that you're drawing people in with the product that you're putting out. You can't put out the intense amount of new content on these subscription models because it's just not going to work. Just because the subscription price is not enough to sustain the content. So it's going to be interesting to see where things go over the next year. I want DC, though, to hit it out of the park. The other problem is, I went to go see Avatar, right? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Avatar. I loved it. And so I walked in very tentative. My wife went with me, which is a better barometer for that type of film. I watched the original Avatar to the point of not remembering something. I watched the original Avatar leading up to it, and I was surprised at how much of that film I didn't remember. And I think the reason why is it was such a visual spectacle that I think I was really focused on that and didn't, internalize the story, if I'm making any sense at all. So watching it at home again, where it was kind of like, okay, I've already gotten over the whole visual piece. Let me just enjoy it. The first Avatar, I thought, was a really good film. I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the world building that was going on there. I'm a big role-playing game fan, and I felt like this had a lot of what I like in role-playing games in a film. Going into 2, and I'm not going to spoil anything with 2, but the story of 2, the progression of characters, increasing areas of the world, that I'm getting to know about now. That's all stuff that I love in role-playing games, right? Where you hit a certain point in the role-playing game and you're in now the expansion, right? And if it's a quality expansion, you're now getting this new area and then it brings such cool storytelling in. So Avatar 2 had that. Where I'm tying this back into that is I was in the theater on Thursday night, the day that it opened, at 7 p.m. Wasn't a whole lot of people there. It's 7 o'clock on, it's on Thursday night. I got it. It's not Friday, but still, it's Thursday night at 7. That's the primo time for people that would want to go see it on opening night, right? It was I wouldn't even say it was a good crowd. You know what I mean? It was just short. And I was sitting there going, wow, this is kind of the state of movies right now. I don't think people know or are drawn to necessarily all of the big tentpole movies that are coming out, right? Because I would say Avatar is one of those movies that, in my mind, needs to be seen on the big screen to really appreciate it, the sequel to Avatar. And I would say that for anybody out there looking for my 2 cents worth on that, I'm going to move away from Avatar. I'm worried for film. I love film. The same way I love comics. So there is a parallel to here and kind of some of my concerns. So I'm really worried on the state, because here's what we need. We need theaters to be viable in order to get some of the films that we want, right? Because superhero movies are a great example of a genre that benefits greatly from these giant screens and these giant locations. And I can't tell you last time I was at a movie theater where I felt like in the overall theater, I'm not talking about where you and I have been at movies together recently, like Black Adam and stuff, where there was a generous crowd, right? But at that same screening of Black Adam, when you looked at the overall theater, there wasn't a lot of people there for it, a multiplex, right?
Right.
I'm very worried for these big buildings that have these wonderful screens. How long can they sustain this? It's becoming a worry of mine when we're talking about DC movies and stuff. Okay, we got cancellations. Well, that's great. That pushes. My concern with the DC movies is it's pushing this further down the line. So we're not going to get any big DC. We're getting the Joker sequel, I guess, still, right? I think.
I believe so.
But we're not getting a lot of big movies that are coming out of the DC studio, which is bad for movie theaters. Like, we're getting our ones this year. We're going to be getting Shazam. We're going to get Aquaman, which I think are going to be, I hope, big releases. But does that mean no more Shazam after this? No more Aquaman after this with, I'm guessing, Jason Momoa? This is it, right?
I'm assuming this is his last run as well.
Shazam? I guess the same thing, right?
Well, yeah, I guess. It's probably. You think about it, unless because if they're doing full reboots on everybody, they would reboot Shazam and Aquaman.
Right.
But Just like, are we ever going to see the Flash movie?
I don't know. I'd like to see.
I don't think so. I'll answer my own question. I don't think we are. I think the Flash movie is now dead.
I hope not.
Partially because of all the stuff that was going on, but now with this, if they really are doing a reboot of the universe, I think the Flash movie is done.
And see, I think that's a mistake. I think they should be focused on moving forward with their new direction. So here's the funny part. I'm going to sound very contradictory here. I think the new direction's a great idea. So I think the idea of like looking at a younger Superman, looking at a new Wonder Woman. I mean, I should, and they haven't said anything about a new Wonder Woman. Let me clarify that. So let's be clear. Maybe it is going to be Gal Gadot. I don't know at this point in time, but I guess I'm assuming younger Superman means like we're going to get Superman going first. Maybe we'll reboot some of these other characters. Because that's the only one we've heard about is younger Superman in relation to Henry Cavill, right? So that's fact. So cool that they're
had a younger Batman.
Well, and I think that's going to be the big question mark right now is what role does this new Batman play into this universe or not? And I don't know that they know that answer yet. Does it make sense for this Batman to play in that universe? I don't know.
Well, if they do a new younger Superman, I would say yes. Mm-hmm. If they're going that route of a new reboot on a new younger Superman, it would make sense that those two would be their Batman and Superman for this universe and have one universe.
Here's going to be the question off of that, and it's a genuine one. So we've got an actor who's playing Batman right now. Even if they were going to create an overarching universe, is the actor in on that? And I think that's going to be an important part too, as far as is that a direction that the actor actually wants to go in, because that's I think going to be a deciding factor too, right? And I wouldn't fault him either way, as far as saying, hey, either I'm all in, hey, great idea, I'd like to be a part of that universe, or no, the kind of movie that we were doing, and it looks like Matt Reeves is still a part of all this, and they're excited to do more stuff with Matt Reeves, so I would think that means that he's on board too, but they're still fleshing this out, which is kind of normal. Like all of this debate or discussion or even our speculation is normal. That's why I'm just questioning the logic behind. I don't know that the Flash movie's canceled. If they do, I question the logic behind that. You got a movie, you put a lot of money into it, throw that bad boy out and let's see what happens. What are they afraid of? That people might like it?
I think so.
Why? Because then if you do a reboot, then like this has become my Flash. I kind of get that.
Exactly.
I'm answering my own question, but
yeah. And again, I'm also speculating. We may know, we may be completely off, and Well, again, and that's part of the thing with this. We just got to sit back, wait, and see what happens. But as you said when we first started talking about this, they're not giving us that information. They're just telling us what's going away.
I think we know too much.
Yeah.
I think this is part of the problem. I think news that's being released right now is too much news. I think we're finding out too many, and too much and too little, like at the same time, which I know that sounds really screwy, and I don't know another way to put it though. So we're getting tons of news about cancellations and what's not going forward, but they can't possibly give us news on what is going forward.
Right.
Other than little tidbits of we're doing a new young Superman movie, which I think is cool. I actually love the idea of them rebooting the Superman franchise, only because I'm realistic of the fact that I loved Henry Cavill as Superman. I loved those movies, but I think that there's an opportunity to do something that is more universally Superman, in the sense that it would appeal to a larger audience. Because I think that movie didn't. If you think I'm wrong, I mean, tell me.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you on this one. Okay. I think. I always want Henry Cavill,
Me too.
There was a comment out there, and I can't remember who said it, so I'm going to steal a line from somebody, and apologies to whomever came up with this thought, but I agree with it completely. I love him as Superman, but I think he never got a script that was really worthy of the level of Superman he played.
Same.
And that's what I wanted, because it looked like they were getting to that point. Because, say what you will about the theatrical release of Justice League. There are some of my favorite scenes were in that version. My favorite scene of that movie, and it still stands to this day, is, is that whole ending, that little light, funny bit where he's like, I want to live. Yeah, so do I. And he comes after the big explosion. He's like, I changed my mind. And, and Cyborg's like, my toes hurt. I can't even understand the physics behind my toes hurting. And then they go to Wonder Woman, children. I work with children. I thought that little banter right there was absolutely wonderful. I loved it, and those kind of moments with, in the end with the Bruce and Clark moments that we kind of got, that we were getting, from them. And it was just like, so those are the stuff that I'm going to miss because we never got a full movie of that. We started getting glimpses of it, and I was like, oh, come on. So that's the stuff I'm going to miss.
What I liked about that is I felt like these movies were all building towards something, right? So I wanted to see the payoff. One of the things I do like about the Marvel films has been this roadmap that eventually led to two great movies, back-to-back, two Avengers movies where we got to see like this crescendo of all these other side movies that all converged into this big event, right? I felt like DC movies were building towards that, and we're not going to get the payoff. That's going to be Here's where it's going to be problematic. You're going to have to build confidence in your audience again, into a new casual audience, that the DC films are going to lead to something and actually pay off. Because Marvel did that well. Marvel, I think, is trying to do that now in a new phase, and it's a little bit harder to do it again, right? Because what they did is staggeringly perfect the first time around, right? Ending up with like Endgame and all that kind of stuff, which I loved. I mean, I really loved what they did. I don't know how easy it's going to be for anybody to replicate what they did. I don't know how you pull off that again. It was nothing short of a well-planned miracle. And I mean, it's a testament to all of the people that were involved that they managed to pull that, like lockdown contracts and pull that off. Would I love to see the same thing with DC or something parallel but uniquely different with DC? 1,000%. I would eat that up. I mean, it's my universe, right? I'm looking to see them do that. It's going to be interesting to see. Have you heard of this thing? So I'm just moving us on a little bit. I appreciated actually Jared's comments on this, the Virgil. So I'm watching this over and over again as we're like talking about this. I threw on the tweet that's up there from Ram V, who I adore. And Jared's comments like so perfect because he's like, I don't know what this is, but I'm in because of Ram V. And I'm looking at them like, dude, you are so right, because I'm watching this right now. I think I'm being hypnotized by this thing. this You are being watched, the Virgil and all that. I don't know what this is. I know I'm reading it.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm in.
If it's a book, I don't know what it is. Is it a book or a cult? I don't know. Ram V's hooking me into whatever this crazy thing is. But I love that he posted this because I don't know what it is either. And it's super cool. Skajam put up this cool review its comic book review of the Best of DC number 22. And it's Christmas with the Superheroes. I love holiday books like this growing up. Did you, we talk about like your college years of reading comics. Did you read comics as a kid? Like, I mean, was that a thing for you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What did you like? What did you like?
Well, one, any comic I could get my hands on was part of it. You'd find it, you'd read it, you'd like it, you'd pass it around, you share it with friends and whatnot. When I was reading solid reading, it was X's. It was Wolverine and X-Men. Any of the X titles, and then, well, again, it's funny. I started off. I was borrowing comics from my one buddy Dan. Who he got them regularly, and he let people borrow them. So, it was always he'd read it first, and then he'd let people borrow it, and you'd pass it around. And it was over in Upstate Elementary School. You'd get to read all the comics, and and then as I started getting older, when I was in high school, I was reading purely Marvel. So it was any of the X books and Wolverine when Wolvie's series started up. Some of the Avengers, I think I would read Avengers on and off. It was never any like regular loyalty to them, and some Cap as well. And then Cap got a little bit more in the college years. College years were really when I was reading more comics because I actually had a job and I actually could pay for comics and stuff like that. So, that, was the branch out. And then, as I said before, college was my introduction really to DC. I knew who all the characters were, but I never really read a DC comic except for if I got my hands on one. So that was the beginning of DC reading. But during the pre-college, I was a Marvel guy.
So looking for, actually, it's funny as you're talking about your experience. It's funny growing up. I was like a Marvel and DC guy through most of my life. I found myself flipping between both companies based on budget, right? So growing up, like diverse comics were really like kind of this cool thing for me, as far as reading them. It sounds like you and I actually had a very similar childhood as far as anything we get our hands on was cool. We didn't always get like what was a full run. We're spoiled now. But it was a very, very experienced. We talk a lot about your college years, I think, because they're more of your years where you can kind of identify, I started getting interested in this character and getting more devoted to that. Am I right? Am I representing you properly?
Well, there was more mature reading, going on with college. There was more actually following. As I said, I had money when I was in my college years, so I could actually afford to buy comics. And I can actually afford to pick a title and go with it and stay with it, and it wasn't the sporadic, nature that I was doing, before when I was younger, and, it was funny because there was a period when I was looking and I didn't want, I didn't want a Superman title because Superman, everybody knows Superman. I want something different, and, when Marvel did that new universe thing, that little side thing they did, that was they launched a new universe and it wasn't any other Marvel characters. I was all in on that one. I was like, man, I got all the titles, I was getting everything, and then the series completely died, and I was like, oh, okay, But it was one of those things where I, really just. I was looking at different stuff, and again, I was reading other Marvel titles, as I kept saying, the X and Wolverine and Cap, and it wasn't until Death of Superman did get me reading Superman. My buddy Hoach, who I've talked about a couple times on the show, I would borrow comics from him. And he would let me, he did the same thing. He'd read the book and he'd let me read it. And he was a DC guy. So that's how I was reading DC. And then I started buying DC after that. And I stopped reading Marvel. And I started, because again, I had to pick. Because again, I had money, but I was still a college student. I didn't have like tons of it. I couldn't afford everything. So I was like, I'm going to stick with this Superman stuff. And I really started going heavy into reading the whole Superman story and all that and everything going on there. And I had my John Stewart that I was reading. So it was, again, it's as I got older, I could appreciate and, again, part of it's finance, but also, you're reading it and you're looking for, needed something, to keep me going, something to just, something a little different. I wasn't really watching TV in college because TV, dorm room TV reception was not good unless you paid for the cable, and I wasn't paid for cable. You would sit there and you'd see some very creative usage of aluminum foil and beer cans to try to beef up the signal inside a dorm room.
Was that a separate dorm room cost, like cable?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you wanted cable, you had to pay. You actually had to contact the cable company.
Wow.
And pay an extra side with them. In the dorm, you got electricity and you got heat. That was about it. You had to pay for your food. You had to pay for, obviously paying for room and board. But stuff like cable, that was extra. We got our phone, but the long distance charges were extra. So you'd get a monthly bill on your long distance charge that went to the bursar's office. So, man, you had to be careful on who you called and when you called because you're going to pay money on that too. So, but yeah.
So it's not DC related, but I think it is DC related to a certain extent thematically. So CBR is reporting that Invincible Season 2 is confirmed for 2023 release, which is an animated series. Why I think this is DC related is there's been rumors of them at least being somebody who's being courted for that Batman animated series, right? So I'm thrilled to see, first of all, this tremendous Invincible series continuing, and that a company that is putting out animated series like this on their streaming service might be considering a DC streaming animated series like the Batman one. I hope that sees light on Amazon Prime or anywhere. Because here's the thing, even if you don't have it, Amazon Prime, the ability to eventually hopefully purchase it and things, if you don't watch it streaming is a thing. And I want to see that exist. I have Amazon Prime and have been watching it a lot more recently. I have it because I buy a lot of stuff from Amazon, so I have that Prime bit and I ended up having it. But they've got a lot of quality television shows on Amazon Prime. Like I needed something else to watch at the moment. But Invincible's one of them. Kirkman did a killer job with that series, and this animated series is so perfect. Bleeding Cool is reporting something about Aftershock Comics filing for bankruptcy, and they owe the creators 5-figure sums. This makes me sad because obviously I'm very pro-creator. Aftershock was one of those companies that were getting some top-tier creators over there. And we actually did a review of Freddy's series over here. I don't know anything about this other than I am so sad to hear creators being owed money for a product that they were doing. I feel bad because what happened that Aftershock was filing for bankruptcy. I am a big fan of, I like seeing more companies. I like seeing more opportunities for this. This is sad news because Aftershock was producing some cool stuff. So I'm sad for the creators involved because creators need to feel that comics are a safe zone to make money, right? To have viable careers. The pandemic has put a lot of things into question. I'm not just blaming the pandemic, but let's be honest, that has certainly had an impact on things like comic shops and the ability to physically go and buy a medium that is originally a collector's medium, where you're collecting a physical product, right? So whether you're a digital reader or not is irrelevant. The importance of a physical comic book fan should not be ignored, right? So I'm sad to see this happen with that. Last piece that Black Adam 2 is not moving forward as part of DC's new first chapter. Doesn't surprise me in light of the other news that we're hearing, but it sounds like there's at least some interest in having Dwayne Johnson play the character somewhere in the future of their DC. I really liked Black Adam, so I'm sad by this news that we're not seeing more of that. Does everything, I guess here's the thing, does everything have to bundle into like a plan in your mind? Because I don't feel that. Like I'm content with like Black Adam to be its own little universe and keep going on. And it's kind of like how Spider-Man and Venom, like it's, even though Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man's been in the MCU, I'm fine with Venom and Morbius and stuff like that being in its own little world. Venom, certainly the more successful. Like, I liked Morbius, but Morbius certainly wasn't of the same quality of Venom. Did you see Morbius? Did you see either of those? Venom or Morbius?
I didn't see either one. No.
Okay. So Venom was a lot more like Deadpool. I mean, in the sense that it was that kind of irreverent, which you would expect from a Venom movie, right? I'm not familiar with the character. It was I loved both Venom movies. They were really, really well done. Morbius, I liked. It was one of those where it was worth seeing once and kind of moving on. It's kind of my attitude towards Morbius. Not trying to trash on it, but it was an okay movie. I liked it. I liked the character. I liked that they took a risk of putting that character out there. I was glad I saw it, but it's not going to be one on my like rotational, like I've got to rewatch this over and over again kind of list. Is probably the best way to put it. But I don't feel like those. While I love everything it's great if everything is in this tight shared universe. Sure, that's great. Black Adam, I wasn't feeling like had to be a part of the DC universe. Like Henry Cavill appearing at the end. Here's the thing. Keep the Black Adam universe going. Throw Henry Cavill in there and do Black Adam versus Superman. Why does it have to be tied into that? Is my attitude. I don't know if you agree with me on that statement, but my attitude's like, I'm fine with that going off in its own little side story, and I would pay to go see that, and I don't need it to be continuity-wise tied. I'm comfortable with the multiverse concept.
I'm 100% comfortable with that. Just like they could continue on with Henry Cavill, with Aquaman, with Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and still have his Batman, his Superman in that series. But again, we're comfortable with the multiverse. We're comfortable with that concept. The non-comic book fan, would they be comfortable with it, or would they be confused? And I think that's what the producers are worried about, but I think they could pull it off. I think they could do it, and I think we've seen it with, the Spider-Man did that, where they had multiple Spider-Man, they had multiple villains from multiple universes interwoven.
Two movies,
yeah.
They did the animated movie and they did the live action. Right. And here's where I think they've got us. If that is really the thing, because we're speculating, so let's be clear, we're speculating on this. But let's say that's speculation, which I think you might be onto something. So I'm supporting you in what I'm saying right now. I think the speculation of maybe there's worry of confusion and stuff like that. I don't know. My wife and I watched that Into the Spider-Verse, and I told her, I said, listen, if you're not into this, just tell me and we'll stop watching it. She loved it. So, and that's not her cup of tea. My wife is not the big comic book fan and things like that. She was watching that because I wanted to. We'd gone to see Avatar together. The new Spider-Verse movie that's coming out in June was one of the trailers, and she said, "Oh, that looks kind of interesting." And I said, "Well, if you are any interest in seeing that, you should probably see the first one because I'm sure this is going to thematically reference what happened in the first one. So maybe we'll watch that at home." So we're looking for something fun to watch. I threw the trailer on, and she's like, all right, I'll watch that. She loved it. She thought it was really, really great. Now, think about all the crazy multiverse stuff that was going into that into the Spider-Verse. You really had to follow along. That was the part she liked the most, was it was cool. Spider-Man's from different worlds and stuff like that, and one's a female and one's doing all this. If you write a good story, people do understand.
Yeah.
That's up to the writing.
You can pull it off.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a thing. I am really disappointed in this. Now, I do think part of the issue, too, is Black Adam's box office was not what they had expected it to be. Here's my worry right now. How much of that is fair on Black Adam?
Right.
Kind of to my point about Avatar, I think right now we are in a strange era where cinema is confusing audiences. They're in one end saying wait for when it comes to the streaming service, because they're making a big deal when these things come to streaming services, then making decisions based on box offices that you are sabotaging with your hand. And I get it. Streaming's a new medium and you want your streaming platform to be top notch and for people to flock to it. So you got to use movies as a way to get there. But shouldn't you make your decisions based on how is Black Adam doing on streaming service? When it hits that, what does that look like? Are people watching it like crazy? I think that's the real judge. I loved Black Adam. So this disappoints me because I really, really enjoyed that movie.
We are Crystal Men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
Our first discussion is on Superman, Kal El Returns special. First, let's start off with Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. For each of these side stories, the letterer is Dave Sharp, the assistant editor is Gillian Grant, and the editor is Paul Kaminsky. First story, The Concert That Ate Gotham, writer is Mark Waid, artist Clayton Henry, colors Marcello Maiolo, covers by Dan Morrow, variant covers by Travis Moore, Tamara Bonvillain, Mario Fox Vocillo, Prasad Rad Pressy, and the Spawn variant by Dan Mora and Tomei Mori. Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen in A Friend in Need, writer is Sina Grace, artist by Dean Haspel, and colors by Trish Mulvihill. Distractions, written by Marv Wolfman, art by Jack Herbert, and colors Alec Guimaras. Final story, Home, written by Alec Segura, with artist Fico Osid, and colors by Lee Luffridge. And apologies on butchering on that one.
Jim, I changed my mind. Let's do the other book. And we've been Raging Bullets. Thank you for listening to us butcher creator names. We've been Raging Bullets. Good night. And I totally do that too. Here's the thing. This Kal El Returns special I've been really, really looking forward to because it did everything that I was hoping it would do. It not only brought Kal El back, but led us right up to Dark Crisis, right?
Yeah.
So this return has really been terrific. I've been enjoying everything that's been going on in action and in the Son of Superman title that's out there, which is John Kent's book's been terrific. We're at this like real transition point for Superman titles, right? Because this is the last title of this era of Superman. We're getting a brand new era kicking off in 2023. So it's a big story. This Concert That Ate Gotham storyline was awesome. Yeah. I really enjoyed this Mark Waid story being a kickoff. Totally appropriate that it's the writer of the Superman Batman team-up book that we've got currently going on at the moment. The moment where they're kind of, what do you want? And that type of thing with Bruce saying that. But you see the smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Our work was really critical here in combining that with that dialogue because there was some great moments where, Clark starts off with, I see you let this place go. What do you want? And with the smirk and the hug between the two of them that you knew was a genuine hug between two close friends. I adore stuff like this. And the moment played out so well. Go ahead.
It was a true bro hug, too.
Yeah,
because you could see how how the art did it. So they start off with the handshake and they pulled in for the hug. I was like, man, that's outstanding. You want to see this type of reaction between these two. You want to see the banter. You want to see the fun. You want to see the fact that Bruce making a breakfast. I thought that was a great way to end this side story, but also them working together.
Yeah.
I loved how Clark. Bruce had complete faith Clark would be back. He knew it. He's Superman, but he also knows Clark. He knows the heart. He knows the gut check of Clark. He knows nothing was going to keep him down no matter what. So that for me was just that. I love the fact that each one of them knows each other so well. And then just immediately they're jumping back in together, the great team up that these two always have. This for me was just a wonderful story. And again, it shows that Bruce and Clark relationship that I absolutely love always.
So what is your kind of understanding of Mr. Nobody? Because I love Mr. Nobody. I mean, it's a character that I really dig.
We talked about him on the show one of the times when we talked about the Doom Patrol.
Right.
And I remember saying, I'm pretty sure my direct quote on this was, what the was that?
Well, he's been on TV, too. So on Doom Patrol on the TV series.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, handled a little differently for live-action television, but still was a prominent character.
I knew who he was, and again, really, he always is one of those guys that, it's a tear down the fourth wall kind of thing, really weird story, something I don't expect with Bruce and Clark, and I love how they know this, and they know how to defeat him by not being their normal self.
Yeah.
They had to shift. They had to tweak it around. And that's actually a really good story with this guy because you have to do things a little bit different. You can't do the normal superhero model when you're facing him.
I love the bit with the breakfast as well when you were talking about that. And it was great how there was the banter between the two of them that they have a comfort level having a trade-off where Clark knows Bruce and knew Bruce as being somebody who was raised with a butler and all those kind of things. Now seeing him, his status quo has changed drastically since Clark has last been here. And seeing him actually in this environment, I love that Bruce is like, great, now you can help me with the dishwasher. That was just such a great ending to that sequence.
Well, and even just like the funny banter, he's joking, saying, because he's like, my youthful travels. Wait, you trained to be this great Batman and cook? Of course. And it helped me, my knowledge of egg whites led to the capture of a diamond smuggler. That one page, like, how'd you go, a jerk? I love that. That had me chuckling.
Yep. And it's a kind of familiarity where you're like, I get why, especially with their Silver Age history together, there's a certain believability, in some of what he's saying.
Yeah, and it's neat that Bruce even comments on to him about how He's still getting used to living alone, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's a comment he wouldn't make with other people. That's a comment he can make to Clark. You know, others people, he wouldn't bring that up. Even people he's close with, he may not bring up that, you know, it's still off, you know, kilter not having Alfred around. You know, and like any of the other, any Robins, Nightwings, and whatnot, he probably wouldn't make a similar comment like that just because they have that loss of Alfred as well.
Yeah.
But with Clark, he can make that kind of comment.
The Jimmy Olsen story was really good. I liked how they did this. I'm glad this is an anthology of like stories bringing Superman back. You know, this being people's first contact with Clark. And Superman being back with Jimmy, them kind of reconnecting. That's interesting with the relationship being right now that everybody knows he's Clark. You know, again, this I'm glad I know we're supposed to be getting, I think, a return to the secret identity is coming. Is my understanding. I don't know what that looks like or how, but I'm anxious to see that be a thing. But I'm glad we're getting kind of a further forward movement right now of this storytelling with his secret being out there.
Well, and one of the neat things about this story for me was, again, I used to hate Jimmy Olsen. And then we got that whole Olsen bug, that whole story where I was like, you know, Olsen's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, and they turned him more into the, you know, the combat photojournalist who, you know, does the crazy stuff to get the shot. And I was like, you know what? That fits that character. That fits who, you know, would be taking these pictures. So I started really liking him. And this one, it was one of those stories where you really do see that friendship, why Superman is friends with Olsen.
Yeah.
You know, because Jimmy was looking for the story beyond what we've always seen. And he was looking beyond seeing people's reaction, people stepping up when Clark wasn't around, stuff that his son was doing when he wasn't around, the influence that Superman has on all people. When he's not there, people, hey, you know, Superman's not here to save today. I've got to do it. You know, I've got to step up my role. I've got to help these people. I don't know this person. I'm going to help him. Why? Because Superman would have done it if he was here. You know, and that kind of story, and that, you know, him, you know, just Jimmy being the one to share that with Clark was a really neat thing, because it's something that Jimmy could have. You know, we talked earlier about with the comments that Bruce made to Clark that he would make with other people. This is the kind of conversation, you know, Olsen would have with Superman, saying, hey, you know, while you were gone, man, a lot of people stepped up. And they didn't just step up because it's the right thing. They stepped up because of Superman. They had to, you know, and they got to continue. The big red S means something, you know, and I love just how he showed that in his, you know, in his little, you know, in his gallery that he was showing. And again, neat thing where he said, oh, yeah, it's for some local charities. So Olsen wasn't doing the gallery to make money. He was doing it for charities. Why? Because that's what Clark would have wanted him. Clark wouldn't have wanted him to make money off of his name. You know, so I love just that's the kind of stuff that this story really got to me. And I was like, man, that's kind of cool.
I really enjoyed this idea of, you know, Jimmy trying to get the right shots for Clark, but they're going back to the old stuff, right? Where it's like Superman saving the day. Great. I've gotten 10 million shots of that. People need to see that this is something different. There needs to be a story here. Which shows the maturity of Jimmy, recognizing that people aren't going to want to see the same old stuff. They've got to see what's new, what's different now. Why is this something that I should be intrigued by or interested in? And as they're talking over the Daily Planet, I like that it leads to this story from his gallery showing that you're talking about, and that picture of his son, I thought was just such a well done approach.
Yeah.
Of, you know, and it leading to this idea of the real shot is Superman reflecting on the world, and through this artwork that you get to see there. I thought that was so cool. I loved the idea that this, yes, of course, this would be the thing that would intrigue people. It's how is Superman different now? Because Superman's in touch, you know, and how is he in touch? Well, through this. I thought it was cool. Venice, Italy, and the chance for him and Lois to have a date. I thought that was a great, because you want to sit there and say, this is a husband and wife who have not seen each other in a long time.
Yes.
And of course they need to spend time together. Yes, Superman's got to put the world first and all that kind of other stuff, but he's also got a son who is Superman now that can be keeping an eye on things. And I loved that they had a chance to have that time first. The husband and wife time. I love Lois and Clark. And those moments are important to establish for us that this is a loving couple who would naturally need to find this time right now. I thought that was neat.
100% agree with you. I love this story. Again, seeing them together, Venice, and I agree, Venice is the great place to do this at, because Venice is one of my favorite cities in the world. And the art choice on this one, I love when they're in Venice, that looks a lot like, that Christopher Reeves as Superman there.
Yes.
And I thought that, for me, was a brilliant choice, because, again, he is one of those guys that, because we were just talking about Henry Cavill that I love, but he is always going to be Superman to me, just because. Yeah, that was the first time I saw Superman on the big screen. It's always going to have that personal, true connection I have to Superman. He's always going to be that. So I see that image, I'm always going to. It's kind of like the one line from the movie, don't worry, Miss Lane, I've got you. You've got me. Who's got you? I still love that line, even though it's, back in the day, and it's a little cheesy on the side, but for some reason I always love that moment. And, in the Superman movie universes. So this, going back to me, was something that I was like, yes, completely agree. Venice would be a great place. And then afterwards, I love the fact that they didn't just focus on that. They talked about, with John dealing with Lex, and just how tough of a criminal Lex is. He is that super smart genius. The strategy of Lex Luthor is outstanding level, where I'm like, holy crud, the level of mind that he has is absolutely wonderful. And I love the fact that John is still learning how to deal with Lex. Clark is still learning how to deal with Lex. I don't think anybody will be 100% ready for Lex Luthor. That's what makes him such a great villain. And so I was like, I love this story because it's the son learning how to deal with Lex Luthor.
And following his dad's advice, who's trying to give him the right tools to be able to make some of his own decisions and handle things his own way. And I love that, I can see a partnership between father and son here really growing, where John's bringing things to the table and seeing things in a way that's different. I loved... anytime you get stories with Superman and Superboy, whether going back to when they would do team-up stories with Superman and Superboy, where it was really him with him, if that makes any sense, then him with the clone, and now him with Superboy Prime, and then him with this Superboy, or Superman. Now, I don't care what we call John. John is just John, and he's awesome. It's something that I think is really, really important. The idea with him and his son, where I love that he calls them out on the fact that, really? Doing what? Touring. Right, touring. And you said Superman never lies. Such a great moment. Great writing from Marv Wolfman on this one. It's such a classic story. Again, this leading into a story with the parents. That was something that I really enjoyed as well, getting a chance to see kind of this nod to his parents in the early days, and then going back to Justice League and his interactions with Naomi. This team would be obviously really glad to see Superman back. This is a character who's important to them. I mean, imagine you're on a team with Superman. He's vanished and you might never see him again, and dude's here.
Yep.
I love
Naomi's reaction. I loved it. It was absolutely perfect that for her to be the one to go like that, and even just, because she is that young hero. She is that, just learning she's just learning the trade. And Clark put a lot of faith in her, having her on the team, having her be a part of that. So for her just to she's the right person to have that, you're back reaction. It just 100% fit. I cheered for that moment. And just like you said, I like how with this last story, they go through all the stuff that is Clark.
Yep.
Because Ma and Pa Kent are so vital to his life,
I agree,
to his story, that I am so glad that they brought them back. When they removed them, when they killed them off, they did epic stories on their death and their losing and Clark dealing with it. But the story is so much better to me when they're a part of it, because it does give you that further glimpse into his humanity. And it's something that it's a grounding factor, but it's not even just a grounding factor. It's a relatability factor. Because remember, this is a man who's got godlike powers. And I always say we got to see with the great Lois and Clark stories, we see why someone with this power would be so much in love with her, because she's not just your everyday average woman. She is something amazing. She is a reason. You can see why he's attracted to her. You can see why he is loyal and loving of his parents. Why he looks at them and say, "That's my mom and pop. That's my parents." He doesn't look down at them because they're mere mortals. No, those are somebody he listens to and he respects. It's that connection. And then even when he's with the Justice League, those great moments, you see him interacting with these people. Whether it was the first story with him and Bruce here, and this story with him and John, Naomi, and Flash. There's so many. It's just, that's the thing that always makes me really love a good Superman story, is when I see him interacting with these people.
And feeling like it's people that are immediate peers, people that are friends, people that look up to him. It's just such a different relationship with so many of them, because the team is filled with, classic characters that have been around forever, newbies. I loved Wally's reaction, felt very different than Naomi's, for example. Those are things that were really important. John's felt very different, as a contemporary peer. The kind of the walk through the Justice League and it being like this place to grow, and that legacy that'll continue no matter what, where he's looking at like Doomsday's armor and Doomsday's, I should say, coverings, and just kind of a reflection on, no matter what happens, we learned it teaches you a lot, but we learned it the hard way, and we learned how to survive. We also learned how to trust each other eventually. And isn't that the true thing of friendship in general, right? That friendships follow that kind of path, sometimes quickly, sometimes longer over time. They're slow burn, but it's the true sign of friendship there. And I feel like when they write them like that, this is where the Justice League is identifiable and relatable in those sequences, because hopefully everybody listening to this and everybody who's read this have friends that they can count on that way. Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's friendship forged in fire.
Yeah.
Is one thing, but there is a true friendship and a true connection that comes with it.
Sure.
Like I've got my work friends, and I did air quotes so you all can see, who, while at work, I talk to them, I have a fun time, I laugh, I joke, they're good people, I like them, I respect them, but when I leave, I don't talk to them. Yeah. I don't see them. And I've got some people that I became friends with that I met at work. Outside of work, I still talk to them. When they go to a different company, I still talk to them. They're still my friend. And it's kind of the same way when you look at, the Justice League, when you look at some of these heroes, when you look at that, they've got these people who are on the same team with, they're friends with, they laugh, they joke with, but like a double date, we saw the double date of, Lois and Clark, Bruce and Selena. We saw that double date. Yeah. We would see, Barry and Iris, or, we would see the double dates among the different heroes and the different socialization outside of the Justice League. So I love this notion how he's talking about how, there is a growth that the team needs to have. You have to have that connection. It's going to come with time. It comes with pain. It comes with heartache, and it's, again, this is part of that humanity, that showing Clark's humanity, in that he looks at these things. He looks at these people. These aren't people who are beneath him. These are his teammates. These are the people that he trusts and that he's learned to trust. And, that's a kind of a growth that he's had to do, that they've had to do. It's that interconnection, it's that humanity that these heroes have with each other. And I love those kind of stories. And I love the fact that we got that through, 4 different stories. We got to see the humanity of Clark in this. Kal El returning isn't just about Superman's back on planet. It's about Clark being back on planet as well. And I love seeing that in all these stories.
I love the ending, too, where we were talking about the Justice League is a rock that you can lean on. But most importantly, it's home, as he's vanishing and leading into, being taken away from home and being led into Justice League number 75. I was glad the timing for this right now, because now we're been brought up to speed of everything we've read about from Action and Superman and in his son's book have been predating Dark Crisis now. Now we're ready for the wrap-up of Dark Crisis. We know how this all led together, and the next issue is going to be, everything after Dark Crisis, where we go from there. It's great timing for this. This is why I really wanted to. I know we both wanted to talk about this particular book on this particular book line on the show. I've been enjoying Superman a great deal. I'm glad we're talking about this. What did you think about the whole Superman storyline with him being away from Earth and all of that? What were your overall thoughts on that? I think maybe we'll wrap up with that.
Well, I'll tell you, I loved how they played that out, and the whole Kal El Returns that they're doing through Action Comics and through Superman, Son of Kal El, just his return, and they're dealing with the ramifications of having War World there in orbit, and dealing with the changes that happen because of that, the changes to Clark. He's a bit of a different person, and obviously through his own series, we've seen John go through growth and changes. So I think for me, this right here was a nice capstone to all that stuff going on, and they're doing a really good job at kind of putting all the pieces back in place, so we know where everything is taking place. We know how he got back when he went, because you think back to it, when Justice League 75 came out and they showed him being snatched away, he was in his costume, and they said circling Warworld. And I remember reading that thinking, how does he have his costume at Warworld? Well, the story that they didn't say at that time was that Warworld made its way to Earth. Clark returned. He was in costume. Warworld was in orbit around Earth for a little while. That's where you see that. That's when they pulled it from that time. So I was like, man, that's kind of neat. I'm glad they're doing these little things to keep everything in play. And they're doing it in a right way. For me, that they're saying everything I was wondering, everything I was wearing, where is it going, and they're filling it in.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that's the great way to do it. And I felt like we got this amazing epic. And it's funny during this era where you've got Dark Crisis going on, that you've got epic storylines going on in some of your other books that are equally compelling, but they're stories that predate the major storyline that's going on. And I liked that choice. That was an interesting approach.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
Our next discussion is going to be of Dark Crisis Warzone. The script is by Jeremy Adams, pencils by Fernando Pasarin, the inks by Matt Ryan, colors by Matt Herms, letters Troy Pateri, cover by Rafael Saramento, variant covers by Mario Fox Foccallo, and Prasad, Prasad, R.A.D., Pressy, Dan Jurgens, Norm Rapmond, and Alex Sinclair. The editor is Chris Rosa. The group editor is Paul Kaminsky. And apologies for any name butchery. Superman is, of course, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Supergirl, based on characters created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. That's interesting how I keep forgetting that characters like Supergirl and stuff like that, they have to acknowledge, in kind of their own unique way because of their settlement or relationship with the family. Dark Crisis Warzone's here, and this is actually the first of technically this is the first of a two-part look at Dark Crisis, because I guess you can argue that Kal El Returns is kind of a lead into Dark Crisis as well, right?
Yeah.
So what did you think about this? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was the beginning of it, and I think for me this was a really neat anthology, because again, in the war zone, what's going on, these different characters, the Kal El Returns really for me was a good a good piece on Clark, good piece on who he was, what's he's about. This one is really doing a great job showing the chaos, that happens in the war zone. I mentioned before that sometimes the writers and artists can capture the beauty of the chaos, and this did a great job with it, especially because each of these stories really did focus on it didn't focus on the Justice League. It focused on somebody associated with the Justice League, somebody around the Justice League, someone there. But it wasn't a Batman story. It wasn't a Superman story. We have an Amazon and we had an appearance of Wonder Woman, but it wasn't a Wonder Woman story. It was about people's reaction to the war, people's reaction to the chaos, what they were doing with it. I thought this, for me, was a really neat story. This was a good start. Again, it's one of those things where if you're going to do like an anthology series like this, hit me right from the jump. Get me going right from the beginning, saying, oh, this is awesome. And they 100% did that with the story.
I love that this story started off with Linda and Iris. It's because they're a relationship that I grew to love over the years in Wally's comic. Now with, the timey-wimey continuity craziness that's gone on, it's nice to see a story that's reconnecting these characters and seeing that they do have a relationship, they have an understanding, and especially in light of everything that's gone on with the respective men in their lives, where you've got two Flashes. Barry certainly has his MO of he heads into like these death-defying, earth-shattering situations where the question is he going to make it back? Is he going to be okay? What does that mean for family? And as a family member of Barry, when you see that with Iris is basically like left hoping that he comes back, not knowing when he's going to come back. It says a lot about their relationship that she sticks around for him, and is loyal, and in situations where you can make the argument saying, I could see why she wouldn't be. I could see why she, at some point in time would say enough is enough from this. I've got to have a life too in this nonsense. I really like how real that felt, in that relationship. And it says a lot more about Iris because of the fact that she feels that way. But I like that she could really talk to Linda about a lot of this. I thought that was progressed well in the story. I love what they're doing with Linda right now. Linda having powers and, her trying to feel that out. I thought was just really, really a great sequence.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, two people who should get along.
Yep.
As I said before, about the people who should be hanging out outside of the Justice League and outside of the business, these two are two of it. The double date of, Barry and Iris and Linda and Wally. You 100% see that. I could see that all the time, all the Flashes and their significant others, hanging out and doing stuff together and just understanding and knowing, and they each get what it's like to be, married to a Flash, because it is different. Especially, I love the scene when, Mammoth is getting ready to crush that little kid and she throws her phone at him. Like, hey, pick on somebody your own size. I mean, like Superman size, not me, Little funny moment, and then Flash zips in, but it's Linda, not Wally or Barry. I love that, how it was her who came in for the save, how it was her who's dealing, and then the team up that we get with these two. Even the fact that Barry told Iris about the escape, not only the escape room, but the armory. Yeah. So they're going and they're armoring up. They're like, all right, it's time to throw down now. I cheered for that scene.
I love the kids with the Batman helmets on, too.
Yes.
I thought it was really, really cool because I was jealous.
Yeah, Batman helmets, body armor. Again, you got to protect the kids, protect the innocent. This wasn't about kicking some butt. This was about getting these two kids to safety. And I loved how they did that, where they went through and they fought their way through, got them to safety. It was absolutely, it's that true hero moments. That's the kind of stuff you see in this issue. You get the time where the heroes, it's the gut check time. It's the step up time. It's the time for me, okay, I don't have powers, but I've got the access code to the Hall of Justice Armory. Let me get some armaments. Hey, let's put some armor on the kids. Here's a bunch of bombs. Let's do this. Let's go out there and do what we can. Let's protect these kids. Let's get them to safety. Hero time, step up. Absolutely love that.
And they did kick a little butt, even though, and I'm not. That's not me debating what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I really liked about it is, in spite of all that, they still managed to kick a little butt.
Yeah, and I love how he's like, hey, have you tried that cycle and arm thing? Oh yeah, that's Wally's go-to. And she does the tornado arms. I was like, again, I cheered those little moments, and I love the fact that it was against the Rogues that she did it.
Yep.
I was like, this right here, this is some great stuff.
Yeah, and that was the part that was really fun. It was the fact that she was able to bring that to the table. And I love where, come on, Iris, you said it yourself, he might be late, but he's always on time, and you see them come racing in. Yeah. I really liked in this that they used certain panels as time placement, right? We've been reading the Dark Crisis story. This is a great way for you to know when this story's taking place, what's happening on there. I was glad to see after this that this was also filling in the blank of the Spectre storyline. Yeah. You know, he does not currently have Jim Corrigan inside him. And Corrigan's like, I was away from this. I was away. I didn't, this was it. I was done. I didn't have to deal with any of this. And he knows what he's going back into, what he's being pulled back into. And yet he's still, it says a lot about Corrigan as a hero because he hasn't always been one. He's made some bad choices in his life. And I like that we're seeing a story where Corrigan's being pulled back in, but he's reluctant, but yet it's funny to say somebody's reluctant when they're crashing on into the situation again. Like, we got to see Frank torn apart, Frankenstein, for example, torn apart in one of the issues, but we're seeing the other parts of his body show up. I like that this is like the things that you don't see that are happening off panel happened in this book.
Yes. And I did laugh when he checked for a pulse on Frankenstein. Like, yep. Really? And he catches himself saying, oh, yeah, why am I doing this?
Seeing the battle play out on screen was just really, really awesome because we're seeing the battle between Raven and the Spectre, with more depth than what we got to see before. And that was something that really stood out for me. These are big, huge battles, and there's still more to show on screen with what's going on there. This is where this event, I think, has really shined in the sense of being and feeling comprehensive in the right ways, where you don't feel like you're being exhausted by what's going on. I think telling well-timed stories that there's scenes from this that would not have worked in Dark Crisis proper, but really work here in this context where you're following different characters and seeing it through their eyes. I felt like with this issue more than any other that I was watching Dark Crisis. Like I was a civilian on the street watching a lot of this happening. And that part was a lot of fun.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, I loved the beauty of the chaos in this part, really does show. Because as you mentioned, we get to see a little bit more of that battle. We get to see a little bit more of that terror and just the horrific nature that the Spectre is actually enjoying this.
Yeah.
This isn't the wrath of God Spectre. This is something very bad. This is something very nasty that needs to be stopped. And once again, the hero has to make the choice. He was out. He was free. He didn't need to do this anymore. He had to step up because he knew he could maybe be the anchor to bring back the Spectre, as the Spectre should be. And I love the fact that he does this knowingly sacrifice what he's giving up what he had got. He's giving up the fact that he was free, and now he's back in there. And what does it actually mean, though? And I love the fact that in this story, we get that end with the question mark, because the Spectre story isn't over yet. There's going to be more playing out. Whether it plays out in Dark Crisis or plays out in something else, I don't know. But this story isn't done yet, and I love that.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been great about this is, so that fills in some blanks with the Spectre. I love that it fishes to then a story from Themyscira, where it's showing why the Amazons get pulled into this. Even they're kind of talking through, should we be involved in this? Should we not be involved in this? But with Nubia being involved, with other members of our Amazon culture being involved, with Diana being involved, with Wonder Girl being involved. All of these people being involved is a reason for us to get pulled in and to help out and to be that leadership group that is helping man through this. We are warriors who have evolved. We are both as capable of shedding blood as we are stopping the bleeding, which says a lot about the Amazons. There's a compassion to the Amazons. There's a strength and power to the Amazons, which I thought was really cool. This was a great story. I didn't know what to expect from this, and I certainly wasn't expecting this Amazon short feature that was a part of it that added so much to the explanation as far as what was their involvement and why were they getting involved. It was cool.
And I loved seeing, obviously loved seeing them fighting in the main battle, but also them taking a supporting role.
Yeah.
Once again, dealing with the house fires, dealing with injured people, dealing with people buried under rubble. Just again, that there's more to the heroics than punching the bad guy. There is protect the innocent side. That's one of the things the Amazons were heavily focused on. Something that, normally heroes a lot of times get distracted, that they have to do that kind of stuff. They have to help out the people. We always say Superman's biggest weakness isn't kryptonite, it's endangering people around him. And, we've seen a lot of great fight sequences where someone will attack a civilian and Superman will have to sidestep it, and take a shot protecting someone. The Amazons here filled in that gap. So the heroes are focused on the fight. The Amazons are filling in the gap, helping out. I thought that, for me, was a really cool story to have in it, that we do have our heavy Amazon hitters fighting the fight. Throwing down, hey, this is the line in the sand. We don't, they don't cross this line. We throw down, and even Diana, it's the Amazon way. And then you flip the page, and you see also the Amazon way of helping people, of protecting the innocents, of, again, the rescue effort and the recovery efforts that they're doing while this war is going on. All of these warriors would love to be on the front line fighting, but they know this is where they're needed most. This is where they've got to do their thing. Here's where they've got to step up.
I love the Lantern story, where we're getting to see this idea of, Hal leading this team in, but it turns into this deeply focused story about Guy and Joe. Yeah. Where we get to see their involvement. And I love Guy is rallying the troops, but Guy's rallying the troops in a way where he makes it seem like I'm rushing in there, and that the only way we move forward right now is if we protect everything, and we can do this, and we should do this, and that's what we're Lanterns. In the meantime, he was lying the whole time. He basically said, I thought we were all going to die there. And I really do believe that he thought that. He was rallying them because he felt like we are the last line of defense. We need to hold the line as long as we can. And there's something about that in the heat of a death moment, where the distraction of we can make it if we push through together, because at the end, the lives that they're saving down below in buying that time are worth it. I mean, it was a very military kind of approach, very heroic kind of approach that I really loved seeing in this. It was a different sort of Lantern story that I think is much more fitting of a Lantern Corps story, which is something you and I were both big fans of the Lantern Corps book. And I feel like this felt like a Lantern Corps story. I don't know if you got kind of that same vibe from this, but it was something I really enjoyed about this.
Oh, God, yes. I'm nodding my head right along with you, because this, for me, 100% was an awesome Green Lantern Corps story. I love Jo in it. I love her pep talk and just the rally cry that she gave out. Yeah, that was something. I was just like, Gardner's right. This is it. We form the wall now. We forget everything else. This battle is all that matters right now. Forget what is happening below. They'll do their job because we do ours. I love just that mindset. And then the one Lantern's like, hey, we can't hold it. We can because we must. And again, it goes back to that whole thing with Lanterns about willpower. You 100%, if you start hesitating, you start thinking you can't pull this off, you're weak, your power will diminish. This right here was that boost of energy to all of them. And as people were falling, they're catching each other, but they're still maintaining the wall. Gardner's fighting with his last breath. Jo comes in for the rescue. And I love how, when the fandom start, retreating, they're like, all right, no, hold the line. We got to form this up. We got to keep this barrier up. And just that realization that I cheered again, where Gardner is like, he's like, hey, he gave Jo full credit for the rally. He's like, oh, we were just following you. No, they were following you. I thought we were all going to die. They were following you. You were the one who motivated them. That, for me, is a maturity of Guy Gardner that I absolutely loved. Because I remember when I first started reading him, I absolutely hated him. I was one of the people who cheered when Batman punched him out. I really did. And then he's a character that as they start more, and you see more of him, and I read more of him, you start understanding him more, and you start really liking him. I love this sequence because it shows Guy as a badass, and he really is, but it also shows a maturity in that he gives Jo full credit for that victory. It wasn't Guy Gardner who did it; it was her. And I love the fact that he's willing to, now willing to say that to her. He's got his brothers in arms who he probably would have given credit before. But if you weren't in his inner circle, he didn't let you in. She's in his inner circle now. She's earned his respect. I love that.
Yeah, and that's something that I thought was really, really important too. We get back to some characters that I've really enjoyed actually in Dark Crisis spinoffs, in the fact that we get to see Canary back again. Actually, and I get to see her basically, we see his daughter interacting with Black Canary.
Yeah.
I really love seeing Arsenal's daughter back again in this vehicle. I didn't think we'd get a chance to see this one, where it's a side story of the return of the Justice League. Seeing her handle her very differently than Damian was. Damian's kind of like, listen, you're not ready for this. You need to stay out of this. Whereas Black Canary's going the opposite route of, let me motivate you. Let's do this together. Let's step up because we, as a team, we can do this. And she steps up in those moments. This is what we Black Canaries do. It does show how different heroes can motivate differently. Damian motivates in his own way, where you get so ticked off at him that you want to prove yourself just because he's being such a putz. Some of that, I think, is Damian doing it deliberately.
Yes.
That's just the way that he knows how to motivate. But in this case, this is who Black Canary is. I loved the distinction. I loved the difference between them and how that motivating factor just worked differently. Like, how cool would that be to actually fight alongside your hero and get the respect of your hero?
Well, and I'll take, again, it shows Dinah's maturity versus Damian's. It shows her leadership style versus Damian's. She's not a reluctant leader, 100%, because you see her step up and you see her take command, but she's not saying, you go here, you go there. She's not the bossy leadership. She's that leader that you love, where it's the motivation through the example. That's the kind of leader that Dinah is, and I love that about her. And again, this was a great sequence of showing her why you want her as a team leader with younger heroes. You want her there because she, recognizes, you do need help. They do need to have someone watch their back, but they're not just useless. They can be a part of the team, but you got to work with them. You got to watch each other's back. You got to fight with each other. And for me, it was a great moment because you see two heroes, Diana has powers, but that's the Canary Cry isn't her main power. It is her fighting skills that is her main power. She uses the Canary Cry when she needs it, but mostly it's their skill training as a martial artist that she relies heavily on. And you see that throughout this, where not one Canary Cry was done. She was fighting the whole time physically. So her and Red Canary matching up great. Love the fact that Steph was involved on this as well. Another hero who doesn't have powers, who doesn't need powers because they've got the skills. This was a great sequence of events going on, and I love the fact that when she calls her Red Canary, she's like, she remembered my name. Just those hero moments. Those, again, the moments where heroes step up and do what needs to be done. Yeah, the physical punching the bad guys is something that needs to be done, but you gotta be that helping hand. You gotta be the birds of a feather flocking together as they're going through this story. I absolutely love how this played out throughout this. And even we get a Power Girl appearance, adding to the whole mix of, again, just this team dynamic of these heroes coming together. These, one wishes me for another Birds of Prey story, another Birds of Prey series. I would love to see Red Canary as a bird, with Dinah. It'd be 100% awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's more of, I'm hoping that there's some characters that have been introduced in Dark Crisis that will spin out of it, and that's certainly one. It'd be a shame to have gone through this storyline and not do something with that character moving forward.
We have to have the Roy in her interaction. Because we saw glimpses of Dinah and Roy meeting, in the last Dark Crisis. That's when they saw each other. You're like, you're alive, kind of thing. So I want to see him see his daughter and remember her and recognize her, and will she know him? Will she know what's going on? Those are the things that really, I'm so 100% looking forward to that, because I remember when she died. And I was like, oh man, that was a tough one. It was a great story, but I felt bad for him. I felt bad for my friend. And I remember having a genuine emotional reaction when, she died. And I was like, that's something powerful, that a story, when you have a genuine, true emotional reaction from a comic book, that is something huge. So that's why I'm really looking forward to their first meeting, them seeing each other. How does this play out? What happens? That's something I'm eagerly looking forward to. And I hope it's not just a couple panels on Dark Crisis. They actually give it a chance to flesh it out, because we've got that series coming up, the search for the search for Ali, for Ali Queen, coming up, that they announced, the Green Arrow series kind of thing. And I'm assuming it's going to be Red Canary, Red Arrow, and Black Canary looking for him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that series is going to be. That's the great thing out of Dark Crisis. We're getting so many things out of Dark Crisis that we'll get a chance to, I think, hopefully, see a DC universe where we get a chance to really get to breathe and get to know some of our characters again. It's an interesting time in comics, as far as what series are going to be launched out of this and what's going to be successful. I'm going to be curious to see what's going to launch into a series, what's going to be a mini series. And that's going to be an interesting sort of piece. What are you even thinking about, it's kind of, we talk about the future of DC. What do you think about more, because we're seeing more and more of these mini series popping up, right? Because even Justice Society of America, right? I thought that was going to be an ongoing. That's a 12-issue mini series, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about mini series, being more the way things are going right now? What are your feelings on that? Because I don't want to see every book be a miniseries, but I'm liking the miniseries that we're getting. I'm glad that that's been a vehicle to get more stories out. Blue Beetle Graduation Day is not a launch of a new series. It is a miniseries. What do you think about that?
I kind of like it. And the reason I like it is they're making a commitment to the story. The creators know we have X issues to write our story. I'm hoping that if a series is really popular, does really well, it'll then lead into the next series, another series, or it may lead into an ongoing. So I'm liking the fact that they're testing the waters and seeing what, basically what works, what doesn't work, what characters are doing better than other characters, and not just assuming it's got to have a bat or a big red S on it. Let's try these other characters. Maybe something else will come out of it. And I'm hoping that as the JSA series is gangbusters and it becomes an ongoing. I'm hoping that something like the Blue Beetle turns into an ongoing, because I really want more Jaime. I think that'd be kind of neat. And as I said before, the whole Red Canary thing. I really want to see the Arrow family together. I want a happy ending for them, because they don't always get it. I'd like to see that happy ending, and I'd like to see the ongoing, because I really loved Team Arrow. So I'd love to see their series lead into an ongoing. There's so many different series out there. I'd love to see, either go into part 2 or an ongoing. And I think this limited series is a good way to identify that.
Yeah, I'm fine with the miniseries, and I like how you're talking about continuing miniseries and things like that. It's fine. I want just continued good storytelling with characters, and I guess to me, if miniseries are the only way to get them to be experimental with characters, where they're releasing some characters that fall outside of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and I'm not pleased that I love Superman and Batman, Wonder Woman stories. I love the larger tapestry of the DC universe. I'm hoping if miniseries are the path to more rich, diverse, expanded stories in the universe. They got so many great characters. I can't wait to see what's going to be coming next out of DC in the coming year. 2022 has been a great year. We've got one more episode of 2022. It'll be our wrap up of Dark Crisis, and it'll be interesting to see what comes next.
There they are, all alone except for that old character. I
would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388 4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of our show. RagingBullets.com is our show website. That's where you'll find news about the latest releases of our podcast. It feeds into Twitter. It feeds into our Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, and that's where our Speeding Bullets segment comes from. Thank you for everyone who takes time to post articles of interest. We really enjoy talking about those. The About Us section of our show website is where you can connect with us on social media and gaming platforms. We love to connect with you. We are sponsored, of course, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seguin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Superman number 1, 50% off, only $2.49. Lazarus Planet Dark Fate one shot, 40% off, only $2.99. Lazarus Planet Next Evolution one shot, 40%, only $2.99. And Lazarus Planet Omega one shot, 40% off, only $3.59. Thank you, DCS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, once again, we have The Absolute Swamp Thing by Len Wein and Bertie Wrightson hardcover. $100 regularly, 50% off, only $50. Batman, The Silver Age Omnibus hardcover, volume 1, $99.99 regularly, 50% off, only $49.99. Rogues hardcover, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, Jim, it's here. It's finally here. We're wrapping up December and ending off 2022 as we're going to be talking about Dark Crisis Big Bang and Dark Crisis number 7. We will see you then.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Sean,
it's right
Jim,
there. I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.